Is the Calgary real estate market going to sink or soar in 2024? Now, 2023 was a wild ride. It was an extremely busy market, and our huge numbers of migration into Alberta continue to show why this is such a beautiful place to call home. Now, in this video, we're going to be giving you guys a full breakdown on the Calgary real estate market, and this video is going to be broken up into 5 parts. Now, the first part, we're going to be going over our net migration and also the interprovincial migration numbers into Alberta. Part 2, we're going to be going over the Bank of Canada interest rates and what impact that is having on the Alberta real estate market, and also what some of our predictions look like for the rest of 2024. Part 3, we're going to be going over something that not a lot of people have been talking about, and that is the amount of mortgage renewals that are going to be happening in 2024 and 2025. Part 4 of this video, we're going to be looking at all the stats as it pertains to Calgary, how many homes we're building, do we have enough to support the population growth, and a bit of a deeper dive on what we can expect for 2024. And lastly, we're going to be giving you our predictions from a high producing real estate team on where we see the market going in 2024. Now let's get into it.
It goes step by step, piece by piece, brick by brick, until it's complete. You gotta build it up, just build it up. You gotta build it up, just build it up.
So the first thing I want you guys to take a look at is this graph right here. Now, we're comparing the net migration numbers in Alberta comparatively in Q3 from 2022 to 2023. Now, if you look right here in Q3 2022, our net migration into Alberta was 45,988 people. In Q3 2023, that number had increased to 56,306 people. Now, that is a change of 22.4%. So you can see that a lot of people are moving to Alberta, and these numbers are a lot greater than what they've been in previous years. If we look at the total change from Q1 to Q3 of 2023, that is an increase of 73.4%. What that means is a lot of people are deciding to move to Alberta, and that is having a huge impact on our supply as a whole in not only Calgary, but all of the satellite communities and all of the major cities in the Alberta real estate market. Now, the second graph that we want to look at is the interprovincial migration and also the international migration into Alberta. So in Q3 2023, there were 39,212 net migrants to Alberta from international origins. 38.3% increase from Q3 2022. So that means that people from outside of Canada are moving into Alberta by an increase of 38%, which is absolutely massive. While in the same period, 17,094 net migrants came from other Canadian provinces, 3% down from the year before. Now in 2022, we had a ton of people moving here from Ontario and BC, and that is still happening. It was an influx of people that were moving to Alberta. That has gone down slightly, but our numbers overall are still drastically more than they've been in previous years. If you look at this graph down here for the interprovincial migration for Q3 2022 and Q3 2023, and then we roll over to the far side to see the actual year-to-date changes from Q1 to Q3 in 2023, that is a 102% increase of interprovincial migration, which is absolutely massive. It's doubled. Our total migration has also increased by 73.4%, and our international migration has increased by 62.7%. Once again, this graph is from the Government of Alberta website, and these numbers are very accurate. And this, as you can see, continues to trend upward, which is going to bring even more and more people into Alberta. So part 2 of this video, we want to review the Bank of Canada interest rates, what impact that is having on our inflation, what impact that is having on our supply, and overall the Calgary real estate market and Alberta as a whole. So I want to start with a little excerpt from an article. Global economic growth continues to slow, with inflation easing gradually across most economies. Now in December, inflation in Canada came in higher than expected at 3.4%, up from 3.1% in November. Shelter costs remain the biggest contributor to above target inflation. The Bank of Canada expects inflation to remain close to 3% during the first half of the year before gradually easing, returning to the 2% target in 2025. The bond yield in Canada has been climbing the last few weeks, up roughly 0.4% from its lowest of 3.15% in early January. Now, this is a result of higher than expected economic growth in the United States and the US bond market also increasing. This has some lenders increasing fixed rates slightly and others holding steady, expecting the bonds to settle. All of this combined has buyer confidence increasing in the market, and a shift away from fixed rates into variable mortgages is being seen across the board. This means buyers are starting to qualify for more than they did earlier in the fall, and this will bring more buyers into the market, creating even more pressure on our already record low supply levels. Now, what that means is the Bank of Canada has held their rate for several months, but by Q4, we're expecting those rates to come down. You guys saw in part one that our migration is huge. Now, when the Bank of Canada decides to lower their rates, that means more buyers are going to have more options. They're going to be qualified for more purchasing power, and that is going to continue to create more pressure on our market because we're experiencing record low levels of supply, and this is going to directly affect our pricing in Calgary and start to push prices up even further. So I want you guys to reference this graph right here on the Bank of Canada policy interest rates. So if we go back as far as September 7th, 2022, we can see that the target rate was 3.25, and that's when they started increasing the rates like crazy. 3.25, 3.75, 4.25, 4.5, 4.5, 4.5, 4.75. Now, if you look at July 12th, 2023, that is when they started holding the rate. 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%. So for the past 5 months, the Bank of Canada has held their overnight rate at 5%. They're a little bit afraid to drop the rate right now because of the impact that it could have on the Canadian real estate market as a whole, but they're holding that rate in attempts to wait for inflation to settle down, at which point those rates are going to start coming down. Now, if you're a buyer, this means that you better act pretty soon because, again, when those rates start to come down, that's going to create more purchasing power and more pressure on the supply of our market. So part 3, we actually want to talk about the amount of mortgage renewals that are going to occur in 2024 and 2025. Now, what I mean by this is people that got 5-year fixed rate mortgages back in 2019 and 2020 when the rates were sub 2%. This means that everyone's mortgage payments were relatively low comparatively to what your mortgage payment would be right now in the current rate market. Now, I have an article right here that I want to read to you guys, and this is something that not enough people are talking about, and this is going to have a huge impact on our real estate market as a whole. How many mortgage borrowers are coming up for renewal in 2024? A considerable chunk of Canadian borrowers stand to be impacted. According to analysts, it's anticipated about $251 billion of mortgages will come up for renewal in 2024, followed by another $352 billion in 2025. That means that the bulk of the renewals are going to occur in 2025, but 2024 is still huge as well. According to December data from the Bank of Canada, 80% of all mortgages outstanding as of February 2022 will experience a payment increase by 2024, with virtually all remaining mortgages to go through their renewal cycle by 2026. That means that anybody who is up for renewal is going to have a payment increase. Now, if you're someone who is experiencing this right now, you may have not had a salary or a wage increase in the past 4 or 5 years, so your payments could be going up dramatically based on what you purchased back in 2019 or 2020. Since March 2022, interest rates have risen considerably and rapidly following a period of historical low rates during the first 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, many mortgage holders are currently facing significantly higher payments, and others will do so at renewal. The exact size of this increase in payments depends on the features of each mortgage and how interest rates continue to evolve. Now, what does that mean for our Calgary real estate market? If someone cannot afford the payment of their property anymore, they might have to be in a position to sell. If our inventory is still really low and some of these borrowers are forced to sell and downsize or possibly rent and go to a different property, that will bring more inventory onto our market. But with the level of migration happening right now and the low inventory already, my prediction is that it's going to create maybe a bit of a balanced market, But with the amount of people that are still moving here, it is just going to be a very, very busy 2024 and 2025. There will be a lot of sales activity and a lot of shuffling from buying and selling from the population. Now, it will be very interesting to see if there are enough borrowers that will bring in more supply into our market that maybe will settle down prices. But again, it's tough to say. So part 4 of this video, we actually want to talk about the Calgary stats and what we've seen in the last 12 months. So a lack of supply in the Calgary housing market pushes benchmark home prices higher, while unaffordability pushes consumers toward lower price options and lowers average home prices. Now that is why we're seeing so much pressure on our condo and townhouse market, and why we've seen such significant gains in our townhouse and condo markets. At 1,366, Calgary's number of home sales saw 14% yearly rise. Detached home average prices increased by 14.9%, putting us at a year-over-year average of $734,000. Still a lot more affordable than Toronto and Vancouver. Semi-detached home average price increased by 7.6% year over year, and we're sitting at about $585,000. Townhouse average price increased by 18.7%, up to $418,000. So if you owned a townhouse in the past few years, you've seen some significant equity gains. And our condo apartment average price increased by 10.7% year over year to $314,000. If you look at graphs from previous years in 2013 and 2014, when our condo market was doing extremely well, we saw a huge dip with condos in 2015 all the way up until 2020, and we've actually almost recovered to 2014 levels when our condo market was doing amazing, and that is close to where we're sitting right now as of this video, February 2024. Now I want you guys to reference this Calgary residential benchmark price to get a gauge on what has been happening. So if you look at this graph right here from September 2005 to November 2023, Calgary home prices have fluctuated over the past 18 years, yet they have shown healthy appreciation with a cumulative annual growth rate of 5% since January 2005. Now again, a lot of people that are first-time home buyers are sometimes skeptical about entering the market, but if you look at Calgary over the last 18 years, we've still seen a 5% growth for the last almost 20 years. So again, if you're someone who might be intimidated about getting into the real estate market, if you look at the 20-year average with a 5% gain, yes, there's been some ups and downs, but I like a 5% return on investment on my real estate asset. If you can see also in this graph from about 2021 till now, the benchmark prices have been slowly climbing, but they've been kind of staying around the same for the last 4 or 5 months. Now I want you guys to reference this graph right here on Calgary housing starts. Now this means how many houses are we actually building. So as of the 2021 census, Calgary had 594,513 private dwellings, of which 563,440, which is about 95%, were occupied by their regular residents. The population in 2021 was about 1.5 million and change. Thus, on average, 2.8 people were living in each private dwelling. So again, 2.8 people per house. The population is expected to grow by around 38,000 people each year. Obviously, we went over our migration numbers, and this is an average of what we can expect every single year. This translates into around 13,600 new dwellings per year because we're working in that 2.8 people per dwelling. New construction of an average of 13,500 houses per year is barely keeping up with the increase in population, and no house is built to replace and allow for the decommissioning of old houses. If we look at this graph right here, you can see the Calgary housing starts, and over the last 5 years, Calgary builders have started 13,500 units per year on average, but this is still not enough to keep up with the amount of people that are moving to Alberta. So again, think about all of these parts in the big landscape and the grand scheme of things. If we have that many people moving into Alberta every single year, our builders are only building just barely enough to keep up, not even accounting for decommissioning old houses. Rates are projected to come down, which is bringing more people into our real estate market because their buying power has improved, and we have 80% of all mortgage renewals happening in 2024 through 2026. What do you think is going to happen to the Alberta real estate market? I am extremely bullish in the next few years on where Alberta is headed. So the last part of this video, and I know we've already talked briefly about some of our predictions, and based on the information that I just gave you, you could probably deduct your own reasoning on where the market is headed, but this is what we foresee happening in 2024 and beyond. So obviously strong increases in the affordable housing sector, condominiums, townhouses, and duplexes. Because of the affordability, these product types are going to continue to increase in value because they're a more affordable option. The overall migration into Alberta will continue to keep pressure on our inventory, thus increasing prices across all market sectors. It is a simple thing of supply and demand. Our supply is really low, the demand is really high, and we have so many people moving here. The only thing that can happen is our real estate prices are going to increase. I know some of you may think, oh my God, we're in a bubble, the market's gonna crash. If you look at the data, it's not gonna happen. The Bank of Canada holding/lowering their interest rates once inflation settles is gonna bring even more buyers into Alberta, and this is again gonna cause pressure on our inventory, which will increase prices further. So again, more people coming here, rates coming down, more people entering the market. That's a lot of buyers who are looking to buy real estate. The mortgage renewals in 2024 and 2025 is going to bring more inventory onto the market due to affordability and those payments going up so much from when they first got that property, and people might not be able to afford their mortgage when it comes renewal time. This is going to help inventory, but it's also going to create extremely high activity and some volatility in our real estate market. Now, if you've been on the fence about buying real estate in Calgary or Alberta, now is honestly the time. Whether you're a move-up buyer, an investor, or a first-time home buyer, net migration, low interest rates, and low supply are going to continue to create upward pressure on pricing. And if you wait too long, you honestly just might not be able to afford that house you've been looking to purchase. On the seller side, now is also an extremely good time to get into the market and list your property because of such significant equity gains in the past few years. So if you're one of those people where your mortgage is up for renewal between 2024 and 2026, and you may have bought that property in 2019, you could have a 20 to 30% equity gain, and maybe you have some debts to pay off, maybe you're looking to get your tuition for your kids' school paid. Now could be a good time to sell and downsize, or even just leverage the equity that you have in your property today. So that concludes our Calgary real estate market update and predictions for 2024. Now we want you guys to follow along because we're gonna make another video at the end of the year to see how accurate these predictions were. Now, if you're looking to buy or sell in 2024, please connect with us using the link in the description below. Again, my name is Riley Nichols with the Bricks Real Estate Group, and we'll see you on the next one.